Fellow Falcoholics, what is up? Welcome to episode 98 of the Falcoholic Live. I'm, of course, your host, Kevin Knight, joined by an all-star cast of Falcoholic greats this evening, including the Falcoholic himself, Dave Choate. And Dave, it's a rare thing we get you on here because of your busy schedule, so I got to go to you first and ask, how are you doing this evening?
I'm great. I've already been harassed for not wearing my Falcoholic shirt, so we're off to a good start.
The brand is strong with everyone else. I mean, I'm technically not wearing it. I'm wearing a Falcons shirt, so that's like half. Gets me half points. But Dave and I fell short this evening. We're not on brand. But there are two guys that are on brand, starting with Mr. Adnan Ikic. You know him at Say Which Way. Adnan, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing well. I'm also not wearing a Falcoholic shirt either. I was just giving Dave a hard time.
It's just black. I was assuming that it was like beneath the view there.
Yes. Had I not said anything the entire show, I'm sure I could have gotten away with it. But I'm an honest man.
Yes. Okay. Well, very honorable.
Man.
Very honorable. Just like wanted to needle Dave a little bit. Not actually on brand. So we're only 25% on brand tonight. The guy who is on brand is Evan Burchfield, at Evan Burchfield on Twitter. Evan, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good. I'm being a good team player.
Yep.
Wearing my Falcoholic shirt.
Brand ambassador. Yeah.
Yeah. But aside from that, good.
But we do appreciate all you guys for tuning in tonight. We are in, of course, the depths of the off season. We do, of course, have one last real football game to talk about, being the Super Bowl this weekend between the Chiefs and the 49ers. We also do have some draft-related stuff to get you. About the Senior Bowl, we got some takes there. Of course, the traditional draft takes. We can't get through a show without some good old-fashioned draft takes, so we will get to that as well. But we're going to kick things off with a little Super Bowl talk. In case you've been living under a rock, you know that it's the Chiefs and the 49ers. You know that ex-Falcons legend Kyle Shanahan is involved coaching the 49ers. It's all very depressing for Falcons fans, or encouraging if you're a big Shanahan fan and you're happy for him. I think most of us probably have mixed feelings, but based on the Falcoholic picks, which are not public yet, but I think I could talk about it a little bit. It seems like the majority of the staff is picking the Chiefs, with only a few of us going for the Niners. So, Dave, as our illustrious guest this evening, who are you picking in this game, and what are your thoughts on this Super Bowl?
I'm picking the Chiefs. I don't trust Kyle Shanahan with a lead when it comes down to it, so I don't trust anyone with a lead against the Chiefs. I think it's the other piece of this. As good as the 49ers are and as well coached as they are, I think, Andy Reid's been here before. I think Mahomes is unstoppable on a good day, and he doesn't have many bad days. And I think the Chiefs' defense is just good enough to win a shootout. So is there a small part of me that also doesn't want to see Kyle Shanahan win so soon, or it feels so soon after the Super Bowl? Probably. I don't think that's fair, but yeah, I definitely do feel that way.
Well, the honesty is good, and I know that we've all got, mixed feelings about Shanahan. Obviously, a very smart coach that made a mistake, coaching the Falcons. Has he learned from that is one of the big storylines that I'm sure he's tired of hearing about going into this game. Adnan, what are your thoughts on this upcoming matchup on Sunday?
I don't hate Kyle Shanahan as much as the rest of this fan base. I don't completely blame him for the Super Bowl loss as much as the rest of this fan base. But for the love of God, I don't want him to win the Super Bowl because all we'll hear all summer is how he couldn't get it done in Atlanta and how he did get it done in San Francisco. This whole redemption story arc of more 28-3 talk, and we've already had enough of this 28-3 talk these past 2 weeks at Radio Row, at those Super Bowl interviews, Super Bowl media night. They were talking to Kyle Shanahan about it. I mean, I'm over it, and in all honesty, I'm pulling for Andy Reid because this is a guy who has the most wins out of any coach who's never won a Super Bowl. And I kind of want him to get over the hump and win the big one.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that the Chiefs haven't won a Super Bowl with Andy Reid. and that's a very storied franchise. They're known for having one of the most rabid fan bases and one of the loudest stadiums in the league. They have a storied history, and they've just never been able to get it done. In fact, I believe this championship game was one of the only times they've ever played it at home in their history. So kind of crazy when you think of a team with as good of a history as the Chiefs, that they've had so much trouble getting deep into the playoffs. But I totally understand where you're coming from there. Last up, Evan Burchfield. What are your thoughts on this powerhouse matchup, Super Bowl 54, 53? I don't know. I have trouble keeping up with the numbers, but
yeah, I think it's 54.
I
don't
right.
know. But I'm going with the Chiefs. I just think it, as good as your defense can be, the longevity of how these games play out, having Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, who's like probably one of the fastest receivers in the NFL, and the way Andy Reid uses the running backs, it's just going to be, too much for, Kyle Shanahan's defense. Although they are a very impressive defense, but, it's like, I get what Adnan's saying, and that's like, I don't hate Kyle Shanahan, but I don't want to see him win a Super Bowl. As much as I'd like to see guys like Ben Garland win a Super Bowl, and Tevin Coleman, I think Toy Lolo is on the team. I want those guys to succeed, but I want, honestly, the perfect situation for me would be the 49ers blowing it, and then maybe the stink comes off of us, and it's like, well, it's a Kyle Shanahan thing and not a Falcons thing.
Yeah.
Because if they win, and there's a good chance that they do, it will be like, well, he learned his lesson in Atlanta. Like, that does nothing for any of us. I don't care if he learned his lesson, because we got burnt by it. I guess good for San Francisco, but that's the thing I've seen all week, is how it's like, he learned his lesson in Atlanta. He learned his lesson with the overconfidence, or whatever you want to call it. But it screwed us, and for the Chiefs, I do like Andy Reid also. I think it's been 50 years or so since their Super Bowl appearance, and I think that was against the Vikings, and they won it. Because then they were obviously in the first Super Bowl, I think, against the Green Bay Packers, where they lost. So, yeah, you like to pull for underdogs like that. I think the 49ers have like 5 Super Bowls already. So, I'm going with the Chiefs. But
yeah,
it's just nice that it's not the Patriots or Saints. So we get to enjoy it either way, really.
It'll be great for a neutral, but Solaire in the chat made a really great point. It would be great if the 49ers blew a 29-3 lead.
Yes. Just need one more. The Texans were really close to like getting us, bailing us out there with that 24-0, blown lead against the Chiefs of all teams. But it wasn't quite enough. They were 1 point off there, but.
Houston in general, remember, they were the team down in Houston that blew that 35-3 lead against the Bills in '93.
That's right.
The Circle the Wagons game. So,
yeah, what didn't the Chiefs blow another lead to the Colts in that one playoff game not too long ago?
Yeah, it was like 24-0. I want to say
it was something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, against Andrew Luck. I just know that you could never trust Alex Smith in these playoff games.
No, and he's long gone.
If you got to pick up 100 yards with Alex Smith, it's going to take you 20 plays. That's all. So.
As long as you got time, you're good. But
yeah, exactly.
Just like if Michael Thomas is your wide receiver, you
yeah,
need 100 yards, 20 catches.
Well, no, because that's five plays. 5 yards of play. And
yeah, exactly.
3, 2.5.
Right. The math involved alone is difficult to fathom for Michael Thomas. You have to really be careful about how much space you have until the end zone, because if there's too much space, like, there's just not enough clock. You know what I'm saying?
If you need 5 yards, Michael Thomas will get you 7. If you need 10 yards, Michael Thomas will get you 7.
Hey, things are going to change with franchise quarterback Taysom.
Oh man, Taysom. No, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. Don't worry.
Yeah. I'm very glad we're going to talk about
that. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. But yeah, I do feel like the Chiefs have a great chance in this game. I think this has a chance to be a very fun Super Bowl. I did pick the Niners because I felt like it would have been really disrespectful if like the whole staff picked the Chiefs, because this Niners team is good, and we know that Kyle Shanahan is kind of a genius. He's like all geniuses, he has his faults that he can't really see himself. That doesn't make him not a genius. It just makes him, not perfect. But he's going to have a great game plan going into this. The Niners defense, if anyone could slow down the Chiefs, it's probably them. They're not going to this isn't going to turn into a, Patriots-Rams last year, which was one of the worst Super Bowls of all time, arguably, because they're not going to shut down the Chiefs for the whole game. But, obviously San Francisco's MO to win this game would be to kind of do what the Titans failed to do, which is to get out to an early lead. The Titans did do that, but then actually hold on to it, keep scoring, and just kind of keep the Chiefs playing catch-up. And, we'll see if they can pull that off. The Niners' offensive line is probably their weakness on offense. They've been able to get it done with guys like Ben Garland and Mike Person, Falcons legends. Because that's Kyle Shanahan's scheme. He can make literally any offensive lineman look like at least competent. But they got to go up against Chris Jones. They got to go up against those pass rushers. It's going to be a difficult test for them. And I'm excited to watch this game. It's going to be a good one. I'd be disappointed if there was less than 30 points scored by at least one of the teams. This should be a lot more fun than last year, at least. But yeah, I concur with everyone who doesn't want Shanahan to win one. I totally feel you there. Him blowing another lead would kind of get the stink off the Falcons, like you guys say. It would be like, oh, it's Kyle Shanahan blows leads. The Falcons are innocent. But we're all too smart to know that's true. But if we could convince other people that, we could just know it ourselves and keep it private. That would be a step up from where we are now. So
yeah, the Falcons never blow leads outside of Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, never happened before. Yeah. Definitely don't go look at 2012. Don't look at that season.
We don't have time for that tonight.
Well, did we ever get? Well, Dave, did we ever get your opinion on them keeping the coaching staff? I don't know if you have come on since that was announced, because we've spoken at it probably ad infinitum. You guys are probably tired of us hearing us talk about it, but I did want to give Dave a chance to kind of give his thoughts on the run it back 2020 strategy here.
I think everybody's probably already said it, right? You can't, as Arthur Blank did this year, say we're all in. We got to get this thing done, and then not get this thing done and bring everybody back, especially when one of the people you're bringing back is Dirk Cutter. So I'm not happy about it. Obviously, I hope that I'm wrong. Just like this year, I hoped that they would bounce back in a way that maybe I half expected they wouldn't. And this year, I fully expect they won't, but I don't think it was a good decision. No.
Yeah, I totally feel you there. That's basically what our thoughts are, is that it seems kind of incongruent with what Blank had said, going into this season. I think we all thought that the Falcons had a good chance to compete, but that Quinn was likely to get fired if they didn't make the playoffs, just because that was the expectation with this roster and all this stuff. But to bring in Dirk Cutter, which I think we all realize is a mistake now, I think we had some hope that maybe Cutter would have evolved some, would have been willing to kind of incorporate more of the Shanahan, Sarkisian, West Coast stuff into his offense. He said all the right things when he got hired, that he was going to do that. And of course, didn't within a couple weeks. It was Cutter 2.0. And it's not like his passing offense is ineffective. It works when you have Matt Ryan and you have elite wide receivers, but it's just not good enough to carry this team when the defense is playing like garbage in the first half of the season. In the second half of the season, sure, you can win some games when the defense is playing well, but the lack of a running game is an Achilles heel of his offensive mind. He just can't seem to get a running game going no matter what talent he has, and it stresses out your offensive line to such an extent that I don't think this offensive line is as bad as it looked, but because they were subjected to this almost league high passing volume and all these long developing plays, that they just looked a lot worse than they were. Maybe with Lindstrom healthy all year, it would have been different, but it's just hard to get elite weapons, elite quarterback, elite offensive line, and a competitive defense all at the same time in the NFL. Like, you're just asking a lot for all of those stars to align, and that's what you need if Dirk Cutter's your offensive coordinator. So,
and I think they knew that too, right? They had to be preparing to tell the fan base about this for 2 or 3 weeks because those videos were pretty well put together. They had everything ready to go, so they had already made a decision they knew was unpopular and maybe not smart, but they were committed to seeing it through. So, it would have been interesting to see what would have happened if they had made that decision and then the Falcons had lost their last 2 or 3 games.
Right.
To kind of see where they would have ended up with that. But I don't know. We're stuck with it this year, so hopefully teams a little less willing to cut promos telling us what a great job they did and a little bit more on the ball.
They're gonna get game breakers, Dave. They've already started.
Game breakers.
Game breakers. My mistake.
We're gonna go out there and get urgent athletes. We want urgent. Guys to test excellence. That's what we want. It's a new term every offseason, and again, like, that's just part of being an organization like this, and I don't blame them for having that philosophy and having a new term every offseason. It's just, you gotta do it. You can say anything. Yeah, you can say anything as long as it works.
Yep.
It gets stale when you're losing. Like, brotherhood was it was amazing in 2016 when we were winning week in, week out. It's it's the brotherhood. Everyone was changing their profile pictures on Twitter. It's to the brotherhood one. I did as well. It was great. But then, like, when you go 7-9 and then 7-9, and then this year the schedule is just absolutely brutal, especially the road schedule, and you lose a home game because you have to go play in London. And after the team goes 8-8 this season, Arthur Blank is probably still going to bring everyone back because he saw improvement in the record this year. So, I'm being slightly facetious there, but maybe not that much.
I'm logging off.
Yeah, time to log off. Yeah, goodbye. We're cutting it short tonight, folks. But yeah, I mean, Solaire, has the same thought that I had. Obviously looking at the aftermath of the coaching hires, you can see kind of who fell through the cracks. And, this year we see Eric Bieniemy get one interview, which is just astounding. And I think I could think of quite a few reasons why, he wasn't, how Joe Judge, the Patriots wide receivers coach, can just be immediately hired by the Giants, but Bieniemy doesn't even get a phone call. I think of quite a few reasons for that. But, Wade Phillips was also available. I mean, I know some people have contentious thoughts on Wade Phillips, but I think he's a quality defensive mind. I think, Bieniemy and Wade Phillips together would have been a great duo because Phillips has all that experience. Bieniemy's a new coach with, the Kansas City roots that could take this team in that direction that we need them to go with the modern offense. And then we're just stuck in the mud with Dirk Cutter. And it's so deflating to know that, I mean, the offense will probably improve in Dirk Cutter's second year, but there's a couple things that we know aren't going to change. Like, the running game isn't going to get any better, and the offensive line is going to have to get a lot better, or Matt Ryan's going to get sacked a bunch, because if you can't run the ball, then you're going to pass, and if you're passing at that high of a rate, Matt Ryan's going to take hits, regardless of how good your offensive line is. And I don't think they're good enough to really protect. We'll see what they do in the draft this year and all that. But
and I just want to make a point that Bieniemy and Phillips are still there as possible coaching candidates for next offseason. Is something to watch out for too.
Yes. Well, maybe there's the silver lining is that, we hold off for a year and we get the change that we want next year when we have kind of our pick of the litter of maybe a more impressive crop of coaches. So we'll see what happens. But
yes, when Matt Ryan's a year older.
Yes, we'll just waste all these years of their prime running that Dirk Cutter offense back, and it's going to be really funny when Dan Quinn and Dirk Cutter get fired by like week 6, and then it's like, oh well, what about continuity? We see how much continuity's worth there. But to be fair, I can't remember. I think it was. Who was it that did the analysis of teams that had gone 7-9, winning a bunch of their last games, and how they performed the next season? It was somebody on the mothership, But
Will McFadden.
Yeah, Will. Ex-Falcoholic. Great. Will McFadden, right? So,
Yeah.
shout out to Will.
Our alumni are everywhere.
Yes, they are. We're insidious. We've wormed our way everywhere. But, a lot of those teams did rebound and play well the next year. There, of course, were some that did not. But of the ones that he picked, quite a few of them did have a better season. So there is hope in terms of historical precedent. But, I'm just not wholly convinced that it's going to happen. And you guys have heard us talk basically ad nauseum about that. And there will be more of it. Don't worry. But we'll give you a little bit of a break from that. What I do want to talk about is future Saints franchise quarterback Taysom Hill. So who wants to take the first crack at that one?
Oh, boy. All right.
It's Dave.
So this is a move, this is the kind of move that a coach like Sean Payton makes, because he is kind of a genius, but he also thinks he's a genius. And so handing the keys over to a 30-year-old quarterback who's thrown 15, 20 career passes in the NFL, that's exactly the kind of move he'd make. It feels like a smokescreen. It feels like the kind of thing they're doing to negotiate publicly with Bridgewater or Breeze or both. But I really believe that he wants to do that. He's chomping at the bit to do that, and it will not work. I mean, even if Hill is surprisingly decent, he's not going to be, a tenth of the quarterback that Drew Brees is. And you can't surprise anybody with Taysom Hill when he's under centered on every single play. It's not going to work. So I look forward to it. I hope it happens. I would embrace it with all my heart, and I hope that Drew Brees makes a lateral move over to the Carolina Panthers. And he can't hit any of those receivers downfield. And I hope that Phillip Rivers takes over for Winston in Tampa Bay, and we might just have something this year. That's our big hope.
Yes. We're going to talk quarterback carousel a little bit before we get into the Senior Bowl, just because it's too much fun. But, yeah, I mean, Solaire had an interesting theory in the chat that they're going to use Hill to tank for Trevor Lawrence. So that would be like galaxy brain New Orleans Saints strat there. So, with that roster, them tanking for a year, that would just be, hilarious, because they have Drew Brees is getting paid $25 million not to play in New Orleans this year. So, so it's that's why they Taysom Hill might be their only choice at quarterback, because they're paying Drew Brees $25 million, and regardless of whether he plays in New Orleans or not, Drew Brees is going to cost at least $20 million for some team that wants to sign him. So if the Saints sign Drew Brees again, then they've got almost $50 million tied up in quarterback this year. They're not going to be able to give a competitive deal to Teddy Bridgewater. So unless Bridgewater gets no other offers,
he'll get some offers.
He'll get some offers, but it's interesting because there are so many quarterbacks out there this year, which after going through several seasons, in the early part of the 2010s and kind of the mid part too, where there was this shortage of quarterbacks. It seems like there's a million of them out there now. You guys mentioned Phillip Rivers, Jameis Winston, Tom Brady potentially could be on the market. Cam Newton likely to be traded, it seems like. And, you got other guys like Teddy Bridgewater out there too. So it's really kind of crazy to talk about, but I'll just kind of open the floor. We're not going to break down all these guys, but I'll let each of you guys kind of talk about one of these quarterbacks. You can take your pick and where you think they're going to end up, just as kind of a fun exercise here. So Adnan, you look like you're ready, so I'm gonna softball that one to you. Quarterback and landing spot this year. Where do you like?
For the NFC South teams?
It could be any team, just whichever. There's a bunch of them out there and a bunch of teams that need quarterbacks. So.
Well, the softball one, and Dave mentioned it, I'm pretty sure the Buccaneers are going to go hard after Phillip Rivers, because Bruce Arians does not like Jameis Winston. You can tell by those hilarious sound bites from those interviews where it's I forget which one it was, the last one where they asked Arians if they can win with another quarterback next year, and he said something like, if we can win with this quarterback,
we can win with anybody. Yeah.
I love how savage Bruce Arians is. I hope he never changes. I think Breeze will be back in New Orleans, to be honest. I think Drew Brees is just a petty dude, a competitive guy, and I think it's leaving a bad taste in his mouth these last 3 playoff years, the way they've been knocked out over and over again, the beautiful ways they've been knocked out year after year. So I think Breeze will come back, but if he doesn't, I really do think that Sean Payton really wants to try out that Taysom Hill experiment.
Oh
And
man.
Taysom Hill, he's a free agent this year. He's a restricted free agent. So I hope the Saints, I hope they unload some money into his bank account. I don't think Bridgewater will be back. Bridgewater is Bridgewater had success last year, and you know that there's going to be a desperate team looking to unload some money for Teddy Bridgewater. I don't know who that'll be exactly, but I don't think it'll be the Saints. I don't think the Saints will be able to afford him this year.
Yeah, I don't think so either. So to me, the one thing I see, if Brady doesn't come back to New England, I think that Brady going to the Colts is really interesting, because the Colts are a team that has a great offensive line in place. They've got the whole team built around them. They're ready to compete, and Brissett just hasn't been able to kind of get them over the hump. So it might be interesting to see what Brady can do there. That's kind of my gut instinct, is if Brady walks out of New England, that he could go there. Imagine the memes of Tom Brady playing against the Colts over and over again, and then he joins the Colts and assumes his final form there. But interested in that one. Evan or Dave, you guys have interesting quarterback fits that you like in this class?
I think Brady. I keep hearing the Chargers thing, and that sounds interesting to me because I know him and his wife they spend a lot of time in LA, so it's kind of like, he can double whammy. He can live out there and play there. And there's really not a lot of expectations with that team, because they really don't have like a large fan base anyways, but maybe that'll help them. I think Teddy Bridgewater going, I know he almost went to Miami, but if they do draft Tua, and who knows how long that'll take for him to be healthy, having Teddy Bridgewater wouldn't be the worst thing. I mean, I like Fitzmagic and everything, but I just don't see him ever winning them, like getting them anywhere. Teddy, give him a chance. And then, so I got a random fact for y'all. Have you ever heard of Pocatello, Idaho?
Yes, I have.
You have.
Been there many times. Enjoy
this is ruining my fact quickly. But do you know 2 popular people who were born there?
I don't. I assume one of them is a quarterback.
Is one of them Matt Bryant?
Taysom Hill and Dirk Cutter.
Oh man, that's what's gonna happen.
The largest city in Idaho.
Yeah,
they should team up in New
high
Orleans.
school's got a sad trophy case.
No, that's the Galaxy Brain strategy.
They both went to
right?
Highland High School, and apparently Dirk Cutter coached there, but it wasn't at the same time, obviously. So,
well, we're going to see the Falcons are going to trade Matt Ryan and then sign Taysom Hill to reunite him with Dirk Cutter, right? So,
exactly.
Even though they've
had to cross paths.
Yeah, definitely. They've been plotting this for years, but no. Dave, did you have any quarterback combos that you were interested in?
Yeah, I think Brady to the Chargers is interesting because he's a California guy. I think the interesting thing to consider with the Chargers is, the reason I think Brady would leave New England is he wants to prove he can win without Belichick. So if he's going to leave, I think that would be why. And I think one of the places that makes the most sense for him to do that is with the Chargers, because Rivers could never get that team over the hump. So if Brady thinks he can, even though he can't, I mean, objectively he can't, but if he thinks he can, he might go there because it's a hometown team. They've got some interesting pieces, and he could finally stick it to Bell. Beyond that, I don't really know. I'd actually love to see Bridgewater in that scenario go to New England. I think he'd be really good in sort of that system with that group that's there right now. And somebody like Belichick obviously brings up the best in everybody, and Bridgewater's, paid his dues. He's good. He really shouldn't have to be a backup anywhere next year. So I'd kind of love to see that scenario. I do think Rivers, in Tampa Bay is a strong possibility, but then I don't know where Winston goes.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
I think my hope and prayer is that Winston winds up in New Orleans. That's never going to happen, but just watching him overthrow Michael Thomas 10 times a game would make me very happy. And
why aren't you running downfield, Michael? Come on, I thought you were a wide receiver 1.
Steve can have a little happiness.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be cool. Yeah, fun stuff. So yeah, I agree that the Jameis Winston to Tampa Bay would be hilarious, but I don't think we're lucky enough to get that one. All right, so let's get into some draft takes. I know you guys are itching. I know Paul Mack has just joined the channel. He's itching for some draft takes. So Senior Bowl was this last week. And for those of you that don't know, Senior Bowl is it's an all-star game, but the game doesn't really matter. It's all about the practices because scouts that are there, shout out to the Draft Network guys for just giving phenomenal coverage all week, keeping me informed, keeping all of us informed as to the goings-on there. The practices are what counts. You get to see a lot of these, a lot of the really high-end guys will back out at the Senior Bowl. Notably, most of the cornerbacks did, but we did get to see guys like defensive tackle Javon Kinlaw, who's been a popular pick for the Falcons at 16. I believe Dan Kadar, mocking the draft, had the Falcons taking him in his mock recently. A lot of the center prospects were there. Nick Harris, Lloyd Cushenberry, those guys. A lot of guys are there that are really interesting, and then you get to see them kind of play against some top-tier competition and some, not top-tier competition, depending on who they're lined up against. But it's a real interesting thing to watch. It's kind of the first data point of the offseason, not including the game film. So very interesting there. So for me, I like to kind of use that as a way to gauge, where some of these guys are, in addition to kind of the film at this point in the season. So for me, there were some guys that were interesting, that impressed, and that there were a few guys too that I thought were kind of disappointing. But for the most part, people acquitted themselves well. So for instance, like for me, I don't know how you guys feel. I haven't talked to Dave. I know Adnan and Evan are kind of on this train about the Falcons adding, a center / guard kind of prospect, probably relatively early in the draft. Dave, I assume you're on board with that idea as well. Absolutely not. No more offensive. But, yeah.
No, I think it's time for James Carpenter at center. So let's get that.
We haven't. That's the one place we haven't tried playing him so far. So, we could see if that works out. But
think about it.
Yeah, they do. They need somebody. Alex Mack's getting up there. This is the last year of his deal. And he's getting up there in age, so I think having a guy that can kind of step in and play guard this year and take over at center in the future would be ideal. So for me, there were two guys that I was super interested in watching. One of them was Lloyd Cushenberry from LSU. If you've been following my mocks at all, you know that I've just been kind of on him from the beginning. He just sounds like the Falcons type of guy, athletic. He's big, he's 6'4", over 300 pounds, ton of experience. Just, you could see him zip around on poles and stuff like that. Like, if Kyle Shanahan was here, he would just fall in love with this guy. And I assume the Falcons are still going for those zone scheme type guys, even though it doesn't really matter what run scheme they run because it's going to suck with Dirk Cutter. I'm just going to kind of assume that they're going that direction. Hopefully for the future, somebody can take advantage of that. But Cushenberry was really the only guy in Mobile that could stop Javon Kinlaw from dominating in one-on-one drills. And Javon Kinlaw basically ate every other offensive lineman and just destroyed them. And Cushenberry was able to stonewall him in one-on-ones, which is very impressive for a center. And I would say Cushenberry may have had the best week of any offensive lineman at the Senior Bowl. So he's rocketing up boards right now, to the point where he might not even be in play for the Falcons in the second round. We'll see. Obviously, Javon Kinlaw, I just mentioned, had a great game as well. Just dominant player. Could easily see him being a fit for the Falcons. A guy, though, that was really disappointing was Nick Harris from Washington. I know if I describe him to the chat, you guys will be like, oh, I would never want to draft this player because he's tiny. I mean, he was like 6'1", less than 300 pounds, but crazy athlete, very technically sound. Didn't really struggle too much in college at Washington. He was just a good player, but at the Senior Bowl he just got dominated. You could tell that the size was an issue, and he struggled with speed too, which was unusual. So it could be that he just had a down day, but I would be pretty scared to draft him high now because of those struggles. But let's see. If you guys are looking for edges, I know you guys love edge players. There's an interesting player named Joshua Youichi from Michigan. If you're a draftnik, you probably heard of him. Had a crazy good day at the Senior Bowl as well. He's like a linebacker size, 6'1", 240, but crazy good pass rusher. Just his athleticism kind of flies off the screen, and he can just blitz around offensive tackles with no problem. He can bend like crazy. Such great natural gifts as a pass rusher, but he's small. And to couple with that, he's actually a really good coverage player. Like you see him, he can cover guys like it's his second calling, like he was a safety in a past life or something. So he's a unique kind of combo of coverage and pass rushing ability. His tackling is probably his weakness, which is kind of funny. So if you're creative, you could probably find a role for him as like a linebacker / third down pass rusher. But he is one of those guys that's legitimately interesting for a lot of reasons. So he was definitely one of the biggest winners from this week. He could see himself discussed in the second round even after that performance. So I don't know if you guys had any takes of your own from Senior Bowl week, any positions that you were watching, any players that you were watching, or if you're just kind of going off of what everybody else is saying at this point.
I was very impressed with Javon Kinlaw, and I see some mocks actually have him falling to the Falcons right now, to the point where, as of right now, it could possibly be a chance of the Falcons having their pick between Ep98 and Javon Kinlaw, in which case I'd completely expect them to take a cornerback. But yeah, that would be a fantastic. I think right now that would be the best case scenario, because you've played yourself out of Chase Young territory. Obviously, you've played yourself out of Derek Brown territory, unless you go back up and trade up for him, which I doubt that's going to happen. Even though it's been a few years since Thomas Dimitroff has traded up in the first round. I know he's having some withdrawal symptoms right now.
What about McGarry though? It was the end of the first round though.
Yeah, from the second to the end of the first round, but that's not enough. That was just enough for that first hit. He needs some more. He needs more now. But yeah. So I feel like if that happened, it really would be the best case scenario, where the Falcons, we won't look back in that kind of regret of winning those last few games. At least I won't, because if we get Epinesa, it would be difficult to have to choose right now. I don't think the Falcons will have to choose between Kinlaw and Epinesa for what it's worth. I don't think they'll both be there, but you're playing yourself into a nice situation where you can possibly get whichever one of them gets left over. And unless both of them just dominate the combine, I don't think that they'll move up too far away from the Falcons draft board. And if they do, then there could be a possibility of having a small trade up where the team isn't mortgaging day one picks or second round picks, which I wouldn't mind at all, because the team does have a lot of picks this year. You can use that third rounder, which you have as some leverage, as some draft capital to trade up, because you have 2 second rounders this year, and that's a big deal, because that extra second rounder gives you a lot more versatility to do more stuff than you could in the past.
Yeah, I agree for what it's worth, and I think they need to hold on to those 2 second rounders, because I think you have to come out of those first 2 rounds with an edge, with a starting center / guard guy, and probably with at least another defensive lineman or a corner. So if you give up one of those picks, it's going to be tough to pull that off. But those two picks in the second round are very close to each other too, so they can get two guys right in that kind of 40 to 60 rank range, and that really gives them the opportunity to load up on talent there. But yeah, I mean, you definitely raise a good question, which is like if Kinlaw's there, if Epenesa's there, which direction do they go? For what it's worth, I think that Epinesa is not really going to like blow up the combine. I mean, I think he's going to perform well, but not crazy. And I think Kinlaw's probably going to like pop off because that's kind of who he is, which is going to generate a ton of hype for him. It would not shock me if by the time the draft comes around, Kinlaw's projected to go ahead of Derek Brown. Because although I think Brown probably is a better long-term prospect, I think Kinlaw's better like right now. Particularly as a pass rusher. Brown has that potential to really put it all together and be that dominant three-down guy, but Kinlaw is that special pass rushing defensive tackle. So I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up going ahead of him. But to me, the big question is like, do the Falcons go after someone like Kinlaw? Do they go after someone like Epinesa? Do they go after a different edge? Do they go after an offensive lineman? It's kind of crazy to think at 16 they have so many choices, but can we all get on the same page here and say as long as it's not cornerback, we're probably okay?
It could be safety.
It could be safety. It
Grant
could
Delpit.
be Grant Delpit, baby. He can't tackle, so I don't think Quinn's going to be a big fan of that. But
I mean, not tackling has been the Falcons' brand the past few years.
That's true, but Quinn likes to pretend that he cares about tackling. So I don't know. Forever. Yeah.
Yeah. My favorite is those commercials that Dan Quinn was in of teaching proper tackling technique. Those which would come on in the middle of a Falcons game in which the team had like 20 missed tackles.
Yeah. So it's crazy actually to look at. Like I was looking at the missed tackle percentage for players on the team, and like there are only a handful of guys like regularly missing tackles, but they miss like a lot of them.
Yeah.
It's
Was one of them Duke Riley?
No, because he didn't
not this year. But
didn't he get cut?
Yeah.
He missed 120% of the tackles.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take in Duke Riley's case. So
Exactly.
You miss 100% of them you do take in Duke Riley.
yeah. It doesn't really matter in his case. Yeah. No, but it's that's another position I think that could be a wild card, right? Like linebacker. In some crazy freak world where Isaiah Simmons is there at 16, I think he has to be in consideration just because of kind of the unicorn that he is at his position. But I'm kind of curious, with you guys. We talked about some Senior Bowl guys. There are other guys that impressed, guys like Troy Pride Jr., the corner from Notre Dame, was the best corner there. There were a bunch of wide receivers that looked good. Denzel Mims, Van Jefferson, those guys. Not really at the top of the Falcons' need list, but in terms of the first round, I mean, I'll give each of you guys a chance to kind of talk about it. But what do you see as the pick at this point? Not necessarily the player, but the position. Do you think it's 100% edge? Do you think it's more likely to be a defensive tackle? Do you think they're even going to try to go after another offensive lineman, something else? Dave, I'll let you get the first crack at this one. What are your thoughts on the position they're most likely to target?
So my gut says it should be, a defensive end and edge, a pass rusher, somebody who can right the wrongs of the past, and be that guy that everyone besides John Abraham is supposed to have been for the last 15 years. I think that's a sensible pick. I think there will be guys available at 16. So given that all the pieces add up perfectly, that I don't think that's going to happen. I really don't.
Typical.
I think it's more likely to be a surprise secondary pick when you come down to it. I think it'll be a corner or a safety. And I'd like to be wrong about that because I like Campbell Sheffield and Isaiah Oliver. I like their safety group, even if I'm a little bit worried about Keanu Neal's health. But I think that they are going to talk themselves into cobbling it together again on the defensive line and trying to improve the secondary, because it just seems like a Falcons thing to do. So even though the sensible pick would be a pass rusher, whether it's on the interior or not, I think we're going to get to 16, and they're going to do what they did the last time they picked around here, when they got Keanu Neal at number 17 and surprised everybody. And I think that's what we're going to see them do again.
Yes, and despite Keanu Neal being a good player, which he was, they definitely needed pass rush help still. So, yeah, I mean, that would be scary to think about because that's very much a Falcons thing. Evan, what do you got? What's your favorite right now for the first round pick?
Yeah, I think it's got to be somebody on the defensive line, but since it's the Falcons, it'll probably be like a linebacker or something. It's just when you look at the history, because all we have really is history to go on. They literally just pick, like the picks are never predictable, and that's the one, everything's predictable with the Falcons, but when it comes to our first pick, it seems like it's not everybody. I mean, I didn't think it was going to be Lindstrom, and then you look at like when Calvin Ridley was picked, that was a big surprise. And then I remember that one draft thinking we were going after Miles Jack, and he like fell to us. It's just like, so I don't put a lot of stock into really trying to figure it out because I don't think it's possible. It seems like the second we start thinking it's one person, they'll pick some random person. So like the Ep98 guy, I mean, I keep hearing that name. That sounds good to me if he's Eric Kinlaw. But, if somebody like, I don't know, like Isaiah Simmons dropped somehow, or if we went up a few to get him, like that seems like something they would do. I mean, they don't need like Del Pitt if he for some reason was there, unless they made a shock and moved on from Keanu Neal. I mean, we don't really know how he's doing after that latest injury, but I think we talked about on last show they'd save like $6 million or something if they cut him.
6.4. Yeah.
So that would be like a Falcons or Dimitrov move where he's like, okay, we're done with Keanu, Del Pitt's there, boom, we take him, but. I don't know. I gotta wait till I've seen some where we take that Chason guy or whatever from from LSU.
Yeah.
Yeah. So pretty much I don't get hardcore into it until after the combine because I think the combine literally has a history of making and breaking players who you're not looking at them as a top 10 pick. Right now they may be in the 30s or 40s, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, of course he's a top 10 pick because we just saw the combine, and it's hard. And then there's going to be guys who are in the top 20 who are going to fall out of it. It's a rough business and they're kids, but that's what happens. So
yep,
we'll see going forward.
Yeah, there's always some surprises at the combine, and we'll see what happens there, obviously. But yeah, Soler, they're going to go with the running back, Calvin Ridley type move. Yeah, DeAndre Swift at 16. That what can help Cutter's run game? Just give him an elite running back. That'll fix everything.
Give him a dog.
The golden god.
You know what though? That's the thing, because what does Dirk Cutter know about his ground games is that the last time he had a great one, he had Maurice Jones-Drew. So who's he gonna want?
Yep, he's gonna want
Jonathan the Messenger.
Yep,
it's happening.
Jonathan Taylor, buddy. No,
that actually would be it. They'd leak it out or something that they're taking a running back, and everybody's thinking it's Swift because everybody's Georgia fans. And then they're like, "Oh, we're taking Jonathan Taylor."
Typical.
Yeah. Top 3 picks.
Quarterback,
running back, tight end.
Yep. We need more weapons for Ryan. Okay, we just need more weapons. Always more weapons. Okay, we're gonna have 6 wide. Okay, that's not even possible. But we're gonna find a way. Matt Ryan's gonna line up as a receiver after he gets the snap. Okay.
Yeah, Matt Ryan's going to put up 40 points a game. The defense will give up 50 a game, and people will say Matt Ryan doesn't win despite having so many weapons.
Yes. He's not a winner.
No, they'll be the highest scoring offense of all time, averaging more than 40 points a game, and they'll be like 4-12.
Well, see, what's far-fetched about this scenario is that again, Dirk Cutter is the offense.
Yeah, so. That's never going to happen when he's the offensive coordinator. But Adnan, what are your thoughts on the first pick?
Well, Jake Fromm will probably be there, and he's a dog.
Yeah,
so
go Dogs! Sick 'em.
Go Dogs! I truly think that the Atlanta Falcons go into every year picking positions out of a hat, and whichever position they pick, they're like, all right, we'll take a player from that position this year in the draft, because nobody thought that we would take Chris Lindstrom last year. I was looking at Lindstrom as a possible second-round pick, and that they were trying to get Ed Oliver, but the Lions weren't having that trade. They wanted to take Hawkinson at 8. So then Thomas Dimitrov does that thing where he pretends like, oh, it was going to be Lindstrom all along. Oh, we planned on we cut Matt Bryan, but we were planning on bringing him back all along. This is why this strategy
Galaxy
is so
brain.
much better.
Yes.
Yeah, he's just patronizing the fan base. And I have no doubt that he'll do it again. Nobody thought we'd take Calvin Ridley. That ended up being a good pick. I think Ridley has a future as a star wide receiver in the NFL. But year after year, this team just floors us with what they do in the first round, going back to Keanu Neal. The last first round pick, which we actually could predict, was Vic Beasley in 2015.
Yeah, we nailed that one.
Yeah, everyone nailed that one.
All the good that did us, Yeah.
So, maybe we shouldn't get those predictable picks.
Well, it's funny because all the random ass picks actually ended up being good. Like Keanu Neal was good. Like Calvin Ridley's good. Chris Lindstrom looks like he's gonna be good. But no one could predict these things going in. They were just these random ass positions. But the ones that we actually picked for need, like Vic Beasley, I hate to say the pick was bad because Vic Beasley showed in 2016 that he could be good. He just chooses, not to go the extra mile, and he chose to be this is what I did in 2016. This is all I'm ever gonna do. It worked for me this year. I don't need to put any more effort in.
It sounds like Dirk Cutter in 2012.
There you go. See, this is our problem, right? But that's, yes, Vic Beasley, the pick was smart. The player, didn't pan out. Tack McKinley, again, we needed an edge. Pick made sense. Player maybe not panning out, so maybe we should just take random guys in the first round and that will pan out.
That's what we've been doing.
Take our stars in the 5th round like Grady Jarrett, so.
I will say, if you twisted my arm, I'd say defensive end, but if I had to bet my life on the Falcons making a predictable pick in the first round, I would pick out Mike Casket.
Yeah, I mean that's smart. I appreciate that. I like how you worked that in. Yeah, I mean, by all, what they do in free agency, as always, is going to give us a pretty big clue to what they're doing in the draft. Except last year, because they signed a bunch of guards, and we were like, all right, they're probably not going for a guard. And then they did pick a guard at 14.
Doubled down on guards in the first
tripled down, buddy. But, so who knows? But, if they don't bring back Vic Beasley, it makes it... If they don't bring back Vic or Adrian Claiborne, it seems like, okay, we're getting an edge in the first round. They have to, basically. If they don't bring back Devondre Campbell, they're probably taking a linebacker pretty high. If they, do something great, if they cut Keanu Neal, safety's in play in the first round probably. So it's going to depend a lot on what they do. At this point, though, I think that the favorite has to be edge because, look, everybody wants to say the defensive coordinator change midseason was the big catalyst for them turning around, and another big catalyst was that they actually started getting pressure on the opposing quarterback. That was the big catalyst that spurred their defensive turnaround, was them actually being able to get pressure, and the defensive coordinator change certainly had something to do with that. But coverage and pass rush are linked together in ways that are hard to understand fully. But everyone's talking about the great debate, what's more important, pass rush or coverage? The answer is both, because if you don't have one, you're not going to have the other. If your coverage sucks, doesn't matter how good your pass rush is, they're just going to chuck it off and dust your JV corners. And if your pass rush is bad, you can have 5 Deion Sanders in the secondary, and it's not going to matter because the quarterback's going to have 2 hours to throw the ball, and eventually they're just going to find somebody. So you have to kind of thread the needle with both, which is kind of what the 49ers did. I would say that, outside of Richard Sherman, the talent in their secondary isn't phenomenal, but coupled with that just deadly pass rush, it doesn't matter because they can get there fast and the corners are good enough. So to me, the Falcons secondary is good enough. They're good enough. They have enough guys. I think Isaiah Oliver's going to improve. Obviously, he wasn't what we hoped for this year, but he did come on. Kendall Sheffield, I think he could be an elite nickel cornerback in time. He has that build. He's shown the potential. I think he can get there. And then Desmond Trufant is a good cornerback 1. I mean, he's not elite, but good, yes. So they're good enough. DeMonte Casey is a good free safety, and if Keanu Neal's healthy, he's a good strong safety. So to me, there's no glaring weaknesses in that secondary. I mean, I think they need to add a corner to that mix, but not necessarily a top-tier corner, like someone to kind of round it out, especially with Jordan Miller, getting high on the supply or whatever it was he was doing. Maybe it was PEDs, I don't know, but was it PEDs or substances? I can't remember, but whatever it wasn't smart. So he's definitely taken one step toward Jalen Collins territory.
Speaking of which, Matt and Aaron have been going back and forth on the Jalen Collins stuff. Matt pulled out the receipts from a few years ago on Twitter.
Oh, man. Yeah. Anytime you can talk about Jalen Collins on the show, we have to make sure to give him a shout-out. But
the dangerous thing about that is like, you pull up any of our draft takes over time, and it's not going to hold up super well in the light of day. Like, hypothetically, somebody might want to, have drafted Glenn Dorsey over that round. That could have happened. So,
Yeah. So what Dave is saying is to add him on Twitter over and over again with his former takes.
Please. Keep them coming.
Keep going. Yeah. No, Dave's used to it by now, so he's battle hardened. Yeah.
No, this is his favorite time of the year.
Yes. All the chickens come home to roost,
Well, I look back on like all my first round mocks over like the last almost 15 years now with SB Nation, and it's almost always a defensive end. And half the time they actually turn out to be pretty good. Like I had the Falcons, I think, getting Ryan Kerrigan, Justin Houston, and I'm like, why? Yeah. Why does this keep happening?
Right. Like the thought was correct.
This year.
Yeah.
No, it's never the correct pick, but
Yeah.
hypothetically.
But it was the pick they should have made. They just didn't. So, I mean, to be fair, sometimes. Definitely Glenn Dorsey. But to be fair, like sometimes the guy that you mocked wasn't there, so that they couldn't make the pick. Sometimes they passed on them. Other times, they just were dumb. So it's interesting. But to me, like one of the big questions is like, obviously Chase Young's going to be gone, right, by the time the Falcons pick. But a big debate I think that's going to happen is, what do you prefer in your defensive end? Do you want Epinesa, who's like 6'8", 6'6", 280 pounds, Michael Bennett-esque, inside-outside player, crazy strong, big defensive end? Or do you like Kayvon Chaisson from LSU, who's, the prototype speed rusher, lots of length, a little bit, smaller, 6'4", 250, crazy athlete, has all the burst in the world. He is a good run defender, so don't compare him to Vic Beasley, okay? Don't slander that man's name by comparing him to Vic Beasley, because
what they were doing all of last offseason.
Yeah, Chaisson. Well, yeah, I think Chaisson's a better run defender than Brian Burns even. He's just very technically sound there and strong. But it's going to be interesting to see if the Falcons do have the choice of those two guys, who they prefer. Because my thought is I think Chaisson is the more likely of those two guys to actually go before the Falcons pick, because he's that prototype speed guy that the NFL seems to be obsessed with. I wouldn't be upset with either one. I think they both have their merits. I think they both have their place. But yeah, it's tough to predict at this point, because for all we know, they're not even interested in defensive end at all. They're bringing back Vic Beasley. It's time to run. They're going to re-sign Beasley and Claiborne, use all their cap space on those two guys. They're going to run it back. That's what they did last year. That's what they did last year. So,
I will say that if there is a tie like that between two players who are very similar, Dan Quinn generally makes the tiebreaker of, if you went to LSU, he'll pick you.
That's true. The LSU track record is there. So Chaisson, I'm putting it in pen.
Write it down in stone.
Yes, chisel it into stone. Deliver it to the draft. Deliver the draft card in stone to Goodell. But
it's got to be an LSU corner, though.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Christian Fulton. He might be there at 16. We'll see. So.
I think you just spoke it into the universe.
From my lips to Dan Quinn's ears. Yep.
Now, Dan Quinn watches the show.
He does. He reads the tweets. Yeah.
He's writing down a pen right now. Oh, that's a good one.
Oh, that's a good pick. I like these guys.
That guy is fast and physical.
He is physical. Yeah, it's true. So, And then, of course, in my last mock draft, I picked like the Clemson corner like the night before the national championship, and then he got roasted in that game. So it was like, oh, he got roasted. Why would you pick this guy? I did this mock like a week ago. Okay, I didn't even like. What do you want from me?
How could you, Kevin? What's wrong with you?
You know,
we all know that with cornerback, if you have one bad play, you are a bum.
Exactly.
Unless you're Deion Sanders.
Yeah.
And then you're the best player in Falcons history.
Exactly. Well, you know, like
He's not, by the way.
Oh yeah, I agree. But yeah, I mean that's everyone knows like it doesn't matter if you have an entire season of good tape. Like if you play badly in the national championship, that means you're a bust. Like that means you can't play football. Period. Doesn't matter that it was against the best offense in college football history. Okay, like AJ Terrell is a bust. He should be undrafted because he got cooked by Joe Burrow in the LSU offense. That's how it is. I don't make the rules. That's how it is. So
correct take.
So yep. All right. Well, you guys have any further draft takes you want to fire off tonight before we wrap things up?
The only draft take I have is just get it right. Like even if they're not going to be here a year from now, with 3 picks in the first 2 rounds, this is a great opportunity to bring in 3 great players. Don't blow it. That's all I want. Don't blow it. I like that one.
Well, one time Arthur Blank in 2016 once said, "I want 3 starters," and
he got
what
him.
We need again. He got him. Yeah. He got him in 2016, so that's what we need again in 2019.
Yeah.
All three of those first 3 picks in those first 2 rounds, all 3 of them need to be able to contribute from day one.
Yeah. I mean, that's the expectation. It should be for those type of players, but yeah, I mean, for me, it's like you need. I see them. I wouldn't be shocked if they were smart, they would probably do what they did last year and just double dip, but they would do it on the defensive line instead. Add an edge, maybe even 2 edges. Like if they don't bring back Claiborne or Vic, maybe double dip at edge. There's a lot of guys in that 1st to 2nd round range that are good. We mentioned Ep98 and Chison. There's Yetur Gross-Matos, Curtis Weaver, Julian Okwara. I mean, there's like probably 7 guys in that range. You take one at 16, you take one with your next pick. And then to me, offensive line, getting that center guard that can take over for Mac, I think is really important. But it's the Falcons, so they're probably going to take cornerback, wide receiver, running back, or tight end when they don't re-sign Austin Hooper. So I know someone had an Austin Hooper question, and the answer is there's no updates. I think that we all agree that since they didn't trade him, that if they didn't re-sign him, it would just be like a giant middle finger to all common sense. But this is Thomas Dimitroff we're talking about, so that's entirely possible. I don't see how you could refuse to trade him because he's a part of your long-term future, quote unquote, and then you refuse to give him an offer or tag him. Like I think they'll tag him before he walks. That's my opinion. I don't know what you guys think.
I just want to say, I just want Austin Hooper to tweet out a sad face emoji and then watch Falcons Twitter burn to the ground.
Yep.
I love that an athlete can't tweet like anything. Like, burn my mouth, on pizza. Everyone's like, damn, why is he having pizza? He's getting out of shape. He's not coming back. He's retiring. Like, it's just like instantaneous.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, why is he eating pizza when he should be studying his playbook?
Yeah. he's gonna get marinara right on the most important play of the year.
Yep, exactly. He's gonna forget his playbook in Papa John's, and Bill Belichick's gonna get a hold of it.
I hope that Supreme was worth it, Austin Hooper.
I hope so, but yeah, I mean, I do think that they will bring back Hooper. I would be shocked if they didn't. I was very shocked when they brought back Vic Beasley though. So I've been shocked before.
You'll be even more shocked when they do it again.
Yeah, But like to me, when someone asks you what are you gonna do with this player, and they're like, oh, we're not sure, that means he's gone. Like because usually what you would say if you wanted to keep him would be like, oh, we really like him, we'd like him to stay, but like, we got to work it out. But if you say like, oh yeah, I'm not sure, that means like, yeah, he's gone. But it's Vic Beasley we're talking about, so.
The whole thing with Vic Beasley is if they could just get him a free shot at the quarterback every play, he would be an absolute monster because he gets there and he does the job. It's just the getting there part.
He can't create pressure, but if he does, he gets a sack. So.
If he was Frodo in the Lord of the Rings, they would have put a blindfold on him at the beginning of the movie, and he would have ended up in like the ocean or something. He just doesn't have a plan. He's not sure where he's going.
He's not sure where he's going, but he's going to get there fast.
He's going to get there fast, and when he does get there, it's great. But, that's the issue.
Exactly. And I know Soler asked about Devondre Campbell as well. I mean, obviously, Campbell's tweets are like super cryptic. I don't think they're going to re-sign him. I just don't think they have the money. Apparently, they were giving him some sort of offer. I bet it was a super lowball offer because, like, if he was willing to take like $2 or $3 million a year to play in Atlanta, sure, why not? But like, he's going to be asking for 5 to 6, I would think, and that's too much for him, especially when you have no money. So, like, I just don't see how that's possible. But then again, if they don't bring back Austin Hooper, then they can make it work.
The other thing with that is too like I feel like, and we didn't really talk about it with the Senior Bowl stuff earlier, but I put on my list of players to watch from the Senior Bowl Logan Wilson because I think he went to Wyoming. He was at the Senior Bowl, known for his coverage, and he just looks like the kind of guy that Thomas Dimitrov falls in love with. I feel like that's not a lock, but a strong possibility on the second day of the draft for them.
Yeah, I do think linebacker, if they don't bring back Campbell, is a real possibility. If you guys have followed my mock drafts, I'm obsessed with Jordan Brooks from Texas Tech. 20 tackles for loss this year. So
it's pretty good.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Who didn't have 20 tackles for loss this year?
Any Falcons player? Yeah. Any of them combined? Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe Grady Jarrett. I think Grady Jarrett had like 10, but that was about it. So.
God, he is so good.
With no help whatsoever.
So little.
Yep.
So much and so little.
Yep. So, God bless you, Grady Jarrett. The rare player that gets paid and then shows out, like plays his best season. So, God bless Grady Jarrett. He's like the one hope for this defensive line.
Remember when people said that we gave him too much money?
I do remember. I tried to forget, but yeah, thanks for reminding me.
I remember Adam Schefter trying to like have this slide diss on Grady Jarrett. Something about when he was reporting that Jarrett was getting his money, said something like, "Oh, Grady Jarrett, who's never been to a Pro Bowl, gets."
Oh, please go find it.
Yes. I'm doing it right now. Yeah, I'm gonna do it right now. But,
somebody do it.
Yeah.
Adam Schefter can only sign whatever agent's hand. So.
Yeah, I think Schefter is low-key a Saints fan, to be honest, from everything he's exhibited.
I think most of the national media is a Saints fan to some degree, and I think it's because Sean Payton is a huge time NFL source. That's been my working theory for years, because they always seem to have really sympathetic coverage for a team that doesn't win anything. So.
Yeah, I found it. Grady Jarrett is only 26, so we'll get another chance at another contract at 30. His $17 million average is only behind Fletcher Cox and Aaron Donald for interior DL in the NFL. Jarrett hasn't been voted to a Pro Bowl nor had more than 6 sacks in a season, but he now has cashed in. Old takes exposed.
Do it.
Like, he worded it like just gently enough that it's like he was trying not to, but he also was trying to. So.
Yep.
Also, since when do you measure a defensive tackle by sacks?
Look, sacks are the only stat that matters for evaluating any defensive lineman, okay? That's like a straight up fact.
Okay, like, Schefter is fine. Schefter is great when it comes to like breaking news and stuff. But if he's gonna try to give me any football analysis, I immediately stop listening.
Yeah, he's an NFL insider only. Like, I don't need you're not where you are for your football IQ, okay?
Plus Pro Bowls, like, aren't we beyond actual, like,
Pro Bowls, hashtag Pro Bowls matter, okay?
Yeah.
When Mitch Trubisky made it over Matt Ryan last year,
Andy Dalton was in the Pro Bowl one year.
Yeah. You know,
Nuts.
if Andy Dalton can make the Pro Bowl, I mean, that gives hope to all quarterbacks, right?
You guys
That
leave
gives
the
hope to
ginger
all of
laser
us.
alone. He's
Yeah.
good.
The red rifle, yeah.
All you need to do is be the quarterback of a team which wins like 11 games.
Yeah.
And all you need to do. But if you have a good defense and a good run game, and you're just game manager away to 10 or 11 games, you'll be in the Pro Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas if you throw for 4,900 yards, 35 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions, but win 7 games that year because of your historically bad defense, you'll get voted out you'll come up short while Mitch Trubisky makes it.
Yeah, I think Solari's actually right that Matt Ryan did actually sit out of that Pro Bowl for injury reasons, but that still doesn't excuse Trubisky being put into the Pro Bowl.
The thing about it, and I heard that too, Matt Ryan should have been like in that Pro Bowl like as a starter.
Right, yeah.
With
That's
the
what
year
you're
he
arguing.
had.
Yeah.
And also the big thing about it is that Pro Bowl doesn't get counted on his like record. And while we're being facetious with Pro Bowl records, that matters when it comes to your Hall of Fame credentials and your Hall of Fame voting.
Yeah, which is why it's a joke. Like it's simultaneously a joke but not a joke, which is the worst possible thing. So it's like it's a popularity contest, but also people care about it, like strangely when we're talking about Super Bowls. But look, Ryan won league MVP. That's all I need to know. Okay, like he won MVP. So
And Drew Brees never has.
Yep, Drew Brees, that dirty stat patter. You know, look, Michael Thomas tweeted it out. Okay, garbage time stats don't count. It's straight from the horse's mouth, guys. Like he like he said it. Okay, like he said it.
Is that before or after he threatened to beat up a reporter?
I think that was before. I think that was like 3 tweets before that. Yeah.
Yeah, all of those tweets came like within 5 minutes of each other. Too.
Yeah. I'm glad he hasn't seen my tweets because I think he would probably have already beaten me up. I have no doubt that he could have, but I'm just gonna do my best to avoid him if ever I get the chance to be in the same room. So
I think it's not just Michael Thomas. It was also Marshawn Lattimore. I think someone called out Marshawn Lattimore for disappearing in the playoffs or for playing poorly in the playoffs. Then Marshawn Lattimore ats him. He's like, "Oh yeah, like when have I ever played poorly in the playoffs?" Then someone quote tweets him with all of those highlights against that Thielen had against him in that Vikings game.
Yeah. It was funny how all of a sudden Marshawn Lattimore wasn't that good this year, you know, when he couldn't just hold on every play. So, you know, fun times. I think that was one of our predictions that we nailed this offseason. So, good job, guys.
Eli Apple either.
Eli Apple. I think we all knew Eli Apple wasn't good, okay? Like, that was not a question. But the Saints seem to think he was, but, you know. All right, last chance for takes before we wrap it up. Last call for takes. The Saints suck. Good one. I appreciate that. All right.
I've given all the takes I can give.
Yep, we've exhausted Dave's takes, so that means it's time to wrap up the show. But before we do, guys, if you don't mind, give this video a like. That helps other folks find us on YouTube by some unknown algorithm that Google guards in their vault of secrets. So I don't understand it, but it helps. So if you don't mind throwing a like, we appreciate that. We hope you guys enjoy the Super Bowl this weekend. We'll be back in 2 weeks to recap that game a little bit, talk a little bit more about free agency, combine. That's all coming up down the pike. Before we officially wrap up, though, I do want to give a shout out to all my guests. First of all, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Dave Cho at the Falcoholic, also at Words and Beer for the more esoteric takes. So, Dave had to work that that SAT word in there. But
thank you.
Anything you're working on, Dave? You want to plug?
Just one fun thing we're gonna do to pass the time between now and the combine is greatest individual seasons at every position on the roster. So you want to relive Jamal Anderson's 1998 or Matt Ryan's 2016 because that's the obvious choice. That's gonna be kind of a boring one. Then we got you covered.
Excellent. Definitely check that out, guys. Also with us tonight, Mr. Evan Burchfield. I also called you Mitchell Evan Burchfield. I think Trubisky making the Pro Bowl is still like burned into my retinas. But at Evan Burchfield on Twitter, always easy to remember. Evan, anything you're working on you want to plug?
No, but I did want to say it was nice to have a show like this to kind of distract myself and hopefully others from, the bad news that seems like it's been every day, with the whole Kobe Bryant thing, just devastating for them and their, that whole family and the other families that were affected. And then, Chris Dolman passing away last night. 2020's been rough. So, it's good to have something else to talk about.
Yeah.
And really the plug, but it's just sad.
Yeah, big rip to Kobe and his daughter and everybody on that plane. That was devastating, and Chris Dolman as well. We lost a lot of good people this week, and it's sad, and it really just kind of reminds you that you can't take anything for granted. You can't always expect tomorrow to come, because it's not going to come for everyone. So live it up. Say you love the people you love. Make sure they know every single day, guys. And on that note, we'll go to Adnan Ikic at Say Which Way on Twitter. Adnan, anything that you're working on you'd like to plug?
Yeah, first of all, R.I.P. Kobe. That was some shaking news a few days ago, just a tragedy out of nowhere. And Kobe Bryant, his daughter, and everyone else, and all of the families affected by all 9 people who were lost in that plane crash. It's just rough, man. But, hopefully, my condolences and prayers to all of those people. Hopefully they have the strength to get through it. But in terms of plugging, Dave mentioned the best quarterback seasons. I am writing something about it. It's pretty much a poll of the best Falcons quarterback seasons, with like a short snippet about each of the best quarterback seasons. There's some Mike Vick and there's some Matt Ryan, Steve Bartkowski, where you can vote for who had the best one, and it's probably going to be Matt Ryan in 2016. But you can look through some of the other options and relive some of those other great quarterback seasons in Falcons history.
Yeah, definitely fun to relive that Matt Ryan season. I fear we'll never see its like again, but I'm hopeful. So
just wait till we get Jake Fromm next year.
Hell yeah. Yep, get that bum Matt Ryan out of here, So, yeah, guys, I am Kevin Knight on Twitter at Falcoholic Kevin. Fresh, hot off the press mock draft coming tomorrow at noon, with some Senior Bowl players in there, since it's the week after the Senior Bowl. This one's different. A lot of new players. I believe I only had 1 repeat player in this mock, so it's going to be 5 new guys. It's a good one, I think, but I'm sure about 50% of you will hate it, just because if 50%, that's generally the most common thing, is half the people love it and half the people hate it, and that's just where we are. Some people like X player, some people like Y player, and that's cool. So whether you love it or hate it, just read it. That's all I can ask. So we appreciate that. And also shout out the site, thefalcoholic.com. Shout out to Gina Thomas and all the SB Nation folks that are at the Super Bowl right now, doing a hell of a job with their coverage. I think Gina had some interviews out with Levine Tololo and Ben Garland and some ex-Falcons that are there. So shout out to those guys working hard this week, and hopefully having a nice time there in Miami. Probably less snow than where I am, and much less snow than where Dave is north of the wall. So I don't know for certain, but I think they have less snow there in Miami, I'm sure.
Dave bathes in the Arctic.
Yes, he's rides his moose to work every day.
The great thing about the moose is you can put your briefcase right on the bed.
Yeah, it's perfect, really. I mean, it's a mode of transportation that has not gotten the love it deserves in modern times, but it's an oldie and a goodie, honestly. So
it is.
Yeah.
Someday we'll all go back.
Someday we might have to, So hashtag global warming or whatever. So, Moose travel. It's carbon free.
And controversial.
Hashtag global cooling.
Yeah. Hashtag nuclear winter. Moose travel is carbon free. So
Not quite. They fart a lot.
They do.
Right.
They do. That's the method.
All right, guys. For the next 2 hours, we'll be discussing global warming.
Okay, this is now Falcoholic Live After Dark.
I'll see you guys later.
All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in this long. If you stay with us, there's 39 of you that are very loyal. But we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Drink some beer. Enjoy some wings. All that good stuff. And we will see you then. Have a great night, guys. For me, for Dave, for Evan, and for Adnan. Have a great night, folks. We love y'all. Peace.